And I try and sift out the fake news from the real news. But as you know, there's been a long-term look-see, and it looks like it's becoming very serious from what I'm hearing. Investigate the investigators. Whether it's Strzok and Page, whether it's Clapper, and whether it's Comey, and all of these people. Because terrible things went on for our country. And we have a great Attorney General, highly prestigious man, a very honorable man, and they've been looking at it for a long time. I can't tell you what's happening. I will tell you this. I think you're going to see a lot of really bad things, and a lot of people think that, and they know they have problems because they were very dishonest. And again, I leave it all up to the Attorney General, and I leave it all up to the people that are working with the Attorney General, who I don't know. But I will say this, I think you'll see things that nobody would have believed.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, a cult by the name of the Finders is being brought back into the spotlight as the FBI releases over 300 pages on the same day as Elijah Cummings' funeral. Is there a connection? Well, we're going to take a look back at previous Q posts that explain how human trafficking and the intelligence agencies are connected. And let me just tell you, the report coming from the FBI seems to suggest that there's a strong correlation between the intelligence community and this cult, which is based right outside of Washington, D.C. So we have a huge show that you guys need to stick around and watch. So just stay tuned. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. We have an incredibly huge episode today with all this information about this cult, the Finders, and we're going to talk about some breaking news. But look, as always, thank you to everybody who hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, hitting the subscribe button is a huge way to basically support the channel. It costs you nothing. It helps me out big time. So please come do that. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. And we always go check the Q board. We haven't had anything new yet. The new website is in the works. I've talked to people very close to what's happening there, and it seems that they're just trying to continue to figure out how to protect the site so that it can remain up once they launch, and that seems to be where we're going with that. So Q post 3570 is where we left off, and that's where we're still in a holding pattern at. But, you know, look, before we get into the stories today, I always encourage everyone, come back here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out that way, especially this last video I did. A credible interview with 3 whistleblowers from Benghazi who are coming forward, and they're telling their story about what happened that day. And it really is an important story. So watch all these, share them. We all know what's happening with YouTube, Google, and how they're trying to suppress this content. So that's why I always just ask you to hand share these articles. Now, let's get into, we're going to do the news, and then we're going to get into this huge story. So we're going to cover some of the news that's ongoing. There's a lot of big stories, and then we're going to get into this cult, the Finders, and we're going to talk about all of these crazy connections. When you go back and you read what Q told us, and you go and you look at what the FBI dropped on their account today, and then you match it with what happened today at, in D.C. with Washington, with or in Maryland, I think, where Representative Elijah Cummings had his funeral, and then President Obama was speaking, and Clinton's were speaking, and it's just, it all ties together, it seems. So we'll just go from there. Here's another story. All right, so Rudy Giuliani. Apparently, I have to talk about this story. So this is the craziest story I've ever seen, and when I saw it, I have to admit, it terrified me. Do you know why? Because I think there's way more to this than most people may understand. And what do I mean by that? Speculatively speaking, this story is from the Washington Examiner. It's been broken nationally. It says, Giuliani butt dials NBC reporter while talking about money problems in Biden. Now, this could be purpose. Giuliani could have done this on purpose to troll the media. Obviously, somebody was like, why does Giuliani have an NBC reporter in his phone contacts? Well, obviously, he's on all of these shows, so he's talking to all these people, and he's President Trump's lawyer and so on. But the idea that first came across my mind that I thought was the most terrifying scenario in this situation is, what if, let me posit this to you, what if there were certain individuals, let's say deep state operatives, who had the technology and capability to make your phone make a call on its own. Now, I'm only saying this because, first of all, butt dialing is a thing that I guess people do. I never have done it, really. I don't understand how people do it, especially today when you lock your phone, like how it ends up calling people. Maybe you put your phone in your pocket without locking the lock screen. I get it, right? But what if completely untraceably some bad actor could make your phone dial somebody while it's in your pocket, right? And then that certain somebody that it dials happens to be somebody like a reporter who may want to hear something that you're saying. Possibly that person is listening to your phone call and then decides this is a great point in the conversation at which to connect his phone to a fake news reporter. And maybe just put it right through to the fake news reporter's voicemail. So it just makes a recording that's neatly placed inside the fake news reporter's mailbox so that the fake news reporter can take that story and then go, look, Rudy Giuliani just butt dialed me and talked about how he was doing all these things and having money problems. I just throw it out there because we have to be careful with technology and what they can do. And especially as, we come into this big movement, which is we're exposing some huge truths. And now it's not Q on a board as much as it is the FBI coming out. Us being able to connect the dots to take what we've learned before and kind of put it with what is happening now, future proving past. I mean, it's all right there. So with that being said, what are the things that they're most scared, terrified of happening right now? Well, look, right now, there are 4 different reports that are coming out and that are going to be huge. First of all, it's another article by the Gateway Pundit. Good job. I really like their work. They are covering this very well, all of this information. But the FISA report, which is going to be coming out soon, apparently, from what I've heard, everybody keeps saying soon. They even say soon, but I do believe it's going to be coming out very soon. Barr and Durham's investigation, which they've now come out and said basically is a criminal investigation. Well, that's going to be interesting, I'll say. What Sidney Powell is doing, we're going to cover all of these kind of individually, but what Sidney Powell is doing with General Flynn is pretty incredible. We're going to go over that later in the episode, but the long story short is that the FBI was making up the 302s. Basically, they were forging the 302s to basically frame General Flynn for things he didn't do, and they entrapped him. It seems there was a lot of malfeasance going on with the FBI at that point. Plus, this story right here, which talks about Joe Biden's son, which is the first story we're going to cover. So now, it seems everything that Rudy Giuliani was saying is coming true. So there may be a reason to go after Rudy Giuliani because he is one of the people who is coming, through and actually exposing these people. Now, Hunter Biden is coming under fire once again now for another European company's dealings where he's brought on to some legal board or legal advice position, and it turns out to just be complete and total pay for play, selling your office. Everything that happens surrounding Hunter Biden seems to have a direct correlation to his father's time in office. And it seems that we're just exposing how these people enrich themselves. Joe Biden saying that his children won't have offices in the White House. Well, first of all, Joe, you're never going to be in the White House again, unfortunately for you. And furthermore, your kids wouldn't have offices in the White House. I see your kids having nice corner offices in downtown Kiev and maybe downtown Beijing, right? That's where I see your kids in the future, Joe. So I just thought that was interesting. You keep going into it. Now it goes into Romania. This is something that Rudy Giuliani basically predicted a while ago, saying that, watch out for Romania. That's going to be the next big thing. Well, this is the really big thing here. I want to read you this clip here from NBC News via the Gateway Pundit here. They say, Hunter Biden's work for Popovici in 2016 went unreported at the time, but Joe Biden's involvement in Romania was very much public. The vice president was among the leading voices pushing the government to crack down on corruption. There's no evidence that Hunter or his father acted improperly or violated any laws, but the arrangement, government ethics experts say, raises concerns that Hunter Biden was used as a prop in Popovici's effort to dodge criminal prosecution. So this is just another example of the way that the Biden family and the Obama administration was selling their influence globally, allegedly, it seems, right? Let's just be clear. So the next story is what we were talking about with Sidney Powell and General Flynn. Sidney Powell is General Flynn's attorney, who's doing incredible work and exposing the way that basically Flynn was set up, railroaded, and now we're getting to the bottom of it. You can't really make this stuff up because it's just, it continues to get more and more incredible as we dig deeper and more information comes to the forefront. But one example here is that Lisa Page, the special counsel, Peter Strzok's lover, mistress, whatever you want to call her, to Deputy Director McCabe, resigned. She had edited Mr. Flynn's 302s, right? I wonder why they'd be editing his 302 after they'd pulled their ambush interview and convinced him that he couldn't talk to anybody for, advice or legal help. I mean, they basically cornered him. They got him to say a few things that were wrong. Maybe he didn't even say anything wrong. Then they went and changed and doctored the 302. And furthermore, it goes on here to cite the fact that James Clapper allegedly told the Washington Post reporter Ignatius to basically take the kill shot on Flynn. Literally, it says here in a document that was released saying the defense has requested the phone records, and this is from the Sidney Powell, I think, saying the defense has requested the phone records of James Clapper to confirm his contacts with Washington Post reporter Ignatius, especially on January 10, 2017, when James Clapper told Ignatius in words to the effect of, quote, take the kill shot on Flynn. So this is how the fake news works with these in my opinion, traitorous people inside of our intelligence community and inside of our government. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg, but we're going to keep on digging deeper into this because there's a lot of information to get there. The story is basically breaking right now, and everybody's looking at it saying this is going to get Flynn acquitted, but I think this was all part of the plan anyway, right? Flynn has gone through everything he's gone through because he has basically exposed the way that this whole Russia collusion hoax was set up and how it was executed illegally, right? Flynn is an example across the board for the people that set up this whole thing in the way that they were corrupt, right? That's a great example for the whole, for everyone to see right there. And maybe this was all part of the plan the whole time. I don't know. Now you have also, like I said before, the Justice Department is saying that the Durham investigation and the Barr investigations are turning into criminal inquiries. This is an interesting take. Obviously the New York Times is, fake news, but they've written this article and I've read a little bit of it, but there are other articles that talk about it. And Geraldo making this prediction is kind of hilarious, saying that there's going to be a run on defense attorneys as Durham's probe of the Trump-Russia investigators deepens. Well, if you look at all the evidence, yes, these individuals that are involved in this are going to be found out. And that's where we're at. So this is another thing that came out today, which makes a really big difference in the whole scheme of things. This book that came out, Inside Trump's White House, The Real Story of His Presidency, apparently has him quoted in the book saying this: what they did was treasonous, okay? It was treasonous, he told author Doug Weed for his upcoming book. The interesting thing out of all of this is that we caught them spying on the election. They were spying on my campaign. So, what is that all about? Said Trump. Quote, I have never ever said this, but truth is, they got caught spying. They were spying, said Trump, who then added Obama. In 2017, President Trump did say that his wires had been tapped by Obama. We know about the meeting where Admiral Rogers went up and met President Trump in Trump Tower, and then he immediately evacuated the tower and ended up going to Bedford, New Jersey, to his, or Bedminster, I think, New Jersey, where his golf club was, never to return to Trump Tower after he had been informed that there were bugs or wires and taps all over the place, that everything was being listened to. Allegedly, that seems to be what happened. But President Trump has been very clear about this from the beginning, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put 1 and 1 together and get 2, right? If you illegally spy on someone, that is, and especially if you illegally spy on someone with the intent of affecting a national election, with the intent of, undoing the democratic elections and free and fair elections of our country, to me, and then not to mention, framing an innocent man, those are things that would constitute treason, right? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just a very simple-minded person, I guess, where doing all of that, to me, constitutes treason. But everything all leads back to John Brennan, and I point you all to go to theamericanreport.org and to check out the reporting by Mary Fanning and Alan Jones to get further information on how John Brennan connects to all this with James Clapper and James Comey, and how Dennis Montgomery, the whistleblower, comes into this whole thing with his revelations about the way the Obama administration was abusing the super surveillance systems to spy on their political adversaries. It's important information. TheAmericanReport.org. You should definitely go check it out. With that being said, let me get into the biggest story of the night right here. We're going to start with this Q post, right? The last post we got from Q talking about human trafficking or trafficking in general was asking us this question. Maryland has the second most defendants charged in federal human trafficking cases. Who represents Maryland in the House and Senate? It says the more you know. So it gives us this Charlie Kirk tweet, which is this one right here, where it says, did you know the last 3 mayors of Baltimore have all stepped down or been forced out of office for corruption? All 3 were Democrats. See a pattern. Well, think about this now. Who is the most prominent anti-Trump member of the House of Representatives who recently passed away, who was involved in a big scandal about Baltimore and literally was the representative from Maryland in the district that Baltimore is in, or in the district that Baltimore is in? That was none other than Representative Elijah Cummings. Now, think about this. This is no coincidence, in my opinion. We have everybody, has it entitled to their opinion, and I am looking at this a lot more suspiciously now, given the fact that we have this really, really cryptic tweet that just came out from the FBI, where they reference the fact that they released these documents from the vault, the FBI records vault, which we're talking about the finders. Now, I started reading these documents, and I have to tell you, it's disturbing. So what happened was, let me just give you a setup to this. An investigation was opened by the FBI after a Tallahassee Police Department officer ended up conducting a traffic stop on a van that was full of 6 children that were with 2 men who were dressed in suits who really had no paternal connection to the children. So the children were in very, very bad condition when they were found. And these men who were dressed in suits and ties basically said that they were taking them to Mexico to go to a school for brilliant children. But these children were in a very, very advanced stage of neglect and seemingly abuse. And 2 of the children were alleged by the officers to seem to have indications of being sexually abused. Now, when interviewed, they find out that these people are part of a supposed cult that's based out of Washington, D.C. called the Finders. Now, what is the Finders? The Finders seems to be this cult that started in the 1960s that was comprised of these highly intellectual people who didn't want to live a normal life and join this kind of cult, and it involved them, kind of turning over their children to wean them away from the mothers, as it says, and to let them all live freely, something to that effect. But what's being alleged in these documents is something totally different. Now, basically what happened was this officer made the stop. He found these children. The children were in an extreme state of neglect, as I said before, and seemingly abuse, and there was no connection made with these men and their parents. Now, what subsequently happened after that was you had an investigation that was open to find the parents of these children. Then when they went to Washington, D.C. and found the mothers of these children, the mothers said that they were okay with the kids being with these two strange men who were apparently taking them to Mexico, but nothing was adding up, and these kids very much acted as if they had been abused in a very serious way. So, that being said, that's kind of where we're at in a nutshell with this case. This all came out back in the late 80s, and it was investigated all the way into the 90s, and there are a lot of very interesting points in this document that I want to get to really quick. First, that is kind of the background to the story. Now I'm going to read you some clips that are just strange to me. So they talk about this story in here in one of the, I think this is one of the overview briefs. Yeah, the preliminary inquiry, right? So forgive me, there's a lot of information here, but this literally says here something interesting. It says, and it talks about how they were seizing these floppy disks and all of this material. And they talk about somebody also advised that they had been told that documentation had been located in the WMPD files to indicate that Sergeant John Stitcher, who died, who had been his sergeant during the finder's search, had been contacted by blank, who had told him to step away from the finder's case, allegedly blank. Well, I'd love to know what these two things say. I would say by a cult member who had told him to step away from the finder's case, allegedly he was killed by the cult. Is that what that says? I mean, that's a question, right? That was where I wanted to start. And now I want to go, there's just a bunch of really crazy stuff. So first of all, when they go to Virginia, I think this was, they raid this compound, and it's the most terrifying compound you ever heard of in your life. First of all, here's kind of a sketch layout of it. They had all these classrooms. It was supposedly a school, but then they had this like secret hidden tunnel that went into this back area that had all this creepy, stuff in it and pentagrams. And you got to hear this, right? So it talks about the 45-foot tunnel that they found and another 7-foot tunnel that was behind the complex. Other significant facts, listen to this. They found a small white plastic plate with 3 pentagrams hand-drawn on top of light green paint, found by the archaeologists who were going through the dirt. You can imagine what pentagrams are used for. That's just the start of this. It gets crazier and crazier. Let's go to page 63. I'm going to go through some of these really quick because we don't have a lot of time. I'm trying to get this all in here. And then I'm going to leave links to this if you want to read this for yourself because there's so much information, but there's a lot here. So here's the memo, which basically talks about what happened here. And I want to say, yeah, this is where it gets crazy, okay? The overview report. You have to hear this because I'm gonna focus on the last part of this report here, where it's kind of like the summary. And I want to read this to you. So this is the summary of the Washington Metro Police Department's detective, Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department detective. This is his summary of what he found in this case, right? April 13th, 1987. It is the writer's belief that the Finders organization is and has been utilized by the Central Intelligence Agency as a disinformation service spreading non-essential, non-critical information to various organizations throughout the United States and overseas. This group, to the most part, is made up of overeducated non-achievers who lacked the inborn initiative to succeed on their own. Therefore, they fell in with a charismatic leader who gave them direction, and however, when directed, and self-importance. To the most part, this organization individually is harmless. However, when directed and monitored by a controlling factor, they are capable of destructive and illegal activities. As in any cult structure, the main drive is for the group, and individual values and ideology is lost. Therefore, when a member is asked to perform a task that heretofore may have been objectionable, he or she performs this mission for the good of the group. As to the abuse of the children, I do not think that child abuse was a planned tactic of this group, but as in any cross-section of society, sick and demented subjects belong to a cult as well. I do believe that the shaping of the children is a planned experiment of the group, as in the case of the Nazis, they strove for a perfect society, thereby, in their own way, tried to form a group of children and ultimately adults that did not suffer from the ills of normal society, but took only the benefits that afforded them perfection. Lastly, I do not feel that the finders have disbanded as reported by their leaders, but instead, as reported by their leaders, I think it should say but instead, as reported in their master plan, have appeared to disband to prevent further detection by law enforcement or social service officials. I firmly believe that this group should be monitored in a general sense, and if further developments occur, they should be noted. Whoa, did you hear that? That's the detective summary after investigating this more closely. Oh, it gets crazier. Yeah, it gets crazier when you hear the detective's encounter with these people. I'm gonna read that real quick, and then we'll pretty much start wrapping it up. There's just a lot of information here, and I'm still kind of getting through it, but there's a lot, I'll tell you. And what we're gonna look at is right here. So here, the detective who was making the arrest that day wrote about what happened that day and how he found the children. Some things that were noted in this report were things that just were completely disturbing. Like the children were very much dirty. They had bug bites all over them. When they asked who was in charge, they said that the adults, that they had to sleep outside, that the mothers were kept inside, that the adults listened to a person who went by the name of the game caller, and that the adults told them what to do, and that they had to work to eat. I mean, like crazy stuff. Like the kids were basically starving, and that while the kids were being interviewed, they were defecating and urinating on the floor, according to these reports, right? Okay, so when this officer pulls up on what's happening here, this is what he writes. He says, this writer spoke to suspect number 1, who stated that he and suspect number 2 were teachers from Washington, D.C., and they were en route to Mexico with the children. Suspect 1 stated they were going to Mexico to set up a school for brilliant children. When asked about the parents of the children, suspect number 1 became very evasive and stated that the children's parents were in Washington, D.C. Suspect number 2 refused to give this writer any information, and he pretended to faint when told he was under arrest for child abuse. Suspect number 2 fell face down. I mean, I don't even know. These people sound crazy. Face down on the ground and refused to stand up. He was carried by this writer and 2 other law enforcement officers and placed into a patrol vehicle. They were transported, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. It goes on. It says the children were extremely hungry when they got to the police department, and the older children stated they hadn't eaten since this morning. The children appeared as if they hadn't bathed in several days, and most of them didn't have on any underwear. The older children stated that they have to do good things to get food as a reward, and they are given oranges, bananas, carrots, and raw potatoes to eat. One of the older kids stated that blank, blank, that blank, and so on. So it gets redacted. But there's more in here. That's pretty much where I'm going to, wrap it up. I wanted to cover some other things. I'll throw a few extra articles if you guys want to dig deeper on this. I'm going to keep digging and try to make some connections. But remember, Q explains to us how this all happens. And before we go, I want to cover this. This is really important. The Gmail drafts, right? These are the things. We talked about this. Why were the servers in North Korea? Why was Eric Schmidt visiting North Korea? Who really controlled North Korea, right? What was North Korea part of? A broader global trafficking syndicate, possibly, that was being run by certain intelligence communities. Now, when they're trafficking, I'm not talking about just humans. I'm talking about drugs. I'm talking about weapons. I'm talking about how they fund their black ops budget. This is so big, and President Trump's blowing the lid on this. I can't believe it. But we've been told before what kind of things are being communicated through these Gmail drafts, right? Wet work. We all know what that is. Human trafficking, sharing of ICE border patrol classified intelligence, to safeguard the schedules of like maybe when, you know, routes and patrols are going to be going in certain areas so that you could smuggle people across the border without anyone noticing, being able to exit and enter the country without being detected, sharing of classified FBI intel to safeguard their own private operations, sharing of DOJ where we stand investigations, guide to overcome, dismiss, win, undermining our entire judicial system, transfer of money, instructions left to leftist organizations so that they could take the money. That was something Q exposed. The way that Obama administration made it so that the DOJ could allow corporations to settle by paying leftist organizations money. Insanity, right? They could settle with the government by giving like a leftist organization money. Off-book meetings, play dates, stand-down orders, non-action orders, Muslim Brotherhood, cross-coordination with UK assets. I mean, the list goes on and on. Ham radio instructions if remote 5. I mean, coordinating with aid organizations like the Red Cross for illegal plans. Coordinating with foreign actors for payment money dispersal. This is what we're exposing. Why did Eric Schmidt make public NSA classified tools? Think X Keyscore, Prism. They were blinding the NSA so they could do all this stuff. And they were going after elected officials in order to blackmail them. Wow. It seems. What advantages exist to big tech other than ABC off on agencies, elected officials, CEOs, if such information is learned? Talking about, you know, no such agency and exposing their surveillance tools and exploiting them. What price are we willing to pay to have this truth come forward? That's a really important question we all need to ask ourselves. So I'm going to leave it there. First of all, thank you guys for watching. Come here, click the big red subscribe button, watch these videos, share them on my social media, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about all of this. A few more things. Be brave. Download the Brave browser. It's a great tool. It's an internet browser just like Google Chrome or any of those other ones. You download it using the link in the description. They make a contribution to the channel. You get a browser that makes your internet 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times better because it takes away the ads and makes the internet actually usable again when it comes to reading. You can read without being interrupted or slowing down your computer with a bunch of ads. Check out RedPillLiving.com. They have some of these great products. I've been trying to use more. I'm trying to get healthy. I'm trying to get my body healthy, and that's a good place to start is going over to redpillliving.com/justinformed. Use the coupon code justinformed to get 10% off. I've been using this Carbon 60. I love it. We're using some of the other products, and we're trying to get a few of the other products and try them out too. But if you guys want to check them out, go to redpillliving.com. Use the link in the description. Use coupon code justinformed for 10% off. Helps channel out too when you do that. So thank you. Also, come find me over here on Twitter at JustinFormU. It's a great way where we can connect and have a conversation with one another outside the channel. Also, JustinFormedNews.com, the official website for JustinFormed Talk. We have Patreon, the crowdfunding website, patreon.com if you want to help fund this work. It is a great place to go. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it. Look, they demonetize the channel. I need your help. Your help keeps this channel going. Your support is what matters, and I'm so thankful. Whatever you can do, whether it's, you know, being able to be a patron or just hitting the subscribe button or just hitting the like button or just watching the video, anything helps. Thank you. And I also have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. There'll be links to everything in the description. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And I'm going to do a very simple segment here. I'm going to tell you that God will never give up on you. He'll never give up on all of us. And never forget that. And I want to read to you Psalm 27 to remind you that God never gives up on us. He never gives up on us. Here it is, Psalm 27. It says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom should I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom should I be afraid? When evildoers came against me to devour my flesh, my foes and my enemies stumbled and fell. Though an army deploy against me, my heart is not afraid. Though war break out against me, still I am confident. I have asked one thing from the Lord. It is what I desire, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, gazing on the beauty of the Lord and seeking him in his temple. For he will conceal me in his shelter in the day of adversity. He will hide me under the cover of his tent. He will set me high on a rock. Then my head will be high above my enemies around me. I will offer sacrifices in his tent with shouts of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord. Lord, hear my voice when I call. Be gracious to me and answer me. In your behalf, my heart says, seek my face. Lord, I will seek your face. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Do not leave me or abandon me, God of my salvation. Even if my father and mother abandon me, the Lord cares for me. Because of my adversaries, show me your way, Lord, and lead me on a level path. Do not give me over to the will of my foes, for false witnesses rise up against me, breathing violence. I am certain that I will see the Lord's goodness in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be courageous and let your heart be strong. Wait for the Lord. And that's my message to you. Wait for the Lord. Be courageous and wait for the Lord. He never gives up on us. So thank you for watching. That's where I'm going to leave it. And I hope you guys have a good night. Remember, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Make sure you hit the like button. Hit it, tap it, bop it, whatever. Hit the like button. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.